I live with 3 females, which means our couch looks like this. Blanket, blanket, fleece, blanket. Is this a living room or a Turkish bazaar? We're gonna do something about that. I think these are the only materials that we need for this project. 2 little strips of walnut from a previous project, and this piece of 6/4 white oak that I found at a garage sale for $5. Yeah. Also, it's already hot in here, so I'm gonna turn the fan on, which means you have to listen to the voiceover guy, because otherwise it sounds like my head's out the window. That also means that I get to listen to copyrighted music while you enjoy this instrumental only track that I picked out. While I took my dimensions, I was thinking about whether I should mill that oak as one piece or chop it up first, as a board can release tension after being cut, especially after ripping along its length. I chose a hybrid and cut one section off, as the other required further processing. I was hoping to be able to get 4 parts from this board, but this crack really messes that up, so I pivoted to resawing this guy down the middle. I did this freehand, just trying to ride right along that drawn center line. In a previous video, I said that descriptions of milling is boring, and I vowed to spice it up for you each time. Next, I'll cross-cut my pieces to final length before ripping at the table saw, so I can ensure that they're all the same length. It was right about here that I realized my original plan of through wedged mortise and tenons was going to turn out really small. I could still create a different joint, but screw it, I came this far. A key in any complicated joinery is layout. Go ahead and do both sides and X out your waste. Set up fences for repeated cuts, or gang cut whenever possible. Anything that you can do to minimize human error, do it. I had to do a bunch of geometric head scratching, as I wanted my mortises to be angled back at 19 degrees. Now, I'm not the sharpest bowl in the bowl drawer, but I'm pretty proud of my jerry-rig method of getting them laid out. I'll set my drill press up with a size that comfortably fits within the mortise and hog out some material. After which came a marathon of chisel work. 8 mortises and an 1 1/8" white oak, testing back and forth with the tenons for a nice fit. Needless to say, this took quite a bit of time. With the tenons dry fit, I can mark where they protrude from the mortise and lay out for the mortise that's within the tenon, if that makes sense. I'll lay out my new mortise just back from the line, so when you drive that wedge in, it pulls the pieces together. As with before, drill press for the bulk, and chisel to finish it off. Before anything else, those get a quarter round, and the legs get cut off at 19 degrees where they meet the floor and where they meet the wall. Don't do this. Bandsaws can only cut on one side as the pillar is on the other. I went with a reach over method, but should have just went back and drawn the layout line on the reverse side of the board. The top looked too blocky, so I'll take care of that before moving forward. YouTube woodworkers always show some sanding. It's like we have to, just so that you know we did it. But you can assume for yourself that I did, so moving on. Before I call it a day, I'll get some finish on these oak pieces. I saved the wedges that I used from my daughter's crib build from 6 years ago, and I'm going to make the same shape, just smaller. First operation is to make them thinner. I tried setting up the micro jig to hold the piece at a matching angle, and this happened. Thank God that took place before I got my hand over the blade. Hindsight, bandsaw works just as well and safer. I'll gang these up into groups of 4, and then use the drill press for the concave parts of the design and the bandsaw for the rest of the shape. After a little refinement via both the disc sander and hand sanding, the wedges can get some finish and I'm ready to assemble. I'll get all the rails in on one leg and then try to line up the next leg, which was giving me grief. So I went ahead and drove in some wedges to hold things together and then used a clamp to get everything else seated before putting in the final wedges. Woodworkers are resourceful. I don't have any anti-skid material, but I do have sheets of sandpaper. I'll cut out a section and glue it to the feet to prevent this thing from falling down. Hopefully that will motivate them to not make blanket mountains on the couch, but I'm sure they still will. Thanks for watching.